Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. The Ignition Time channel is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about money. Let's get into some things that are really important as far as the next $908 billion stimulus relief plan is considered. I'm going to ask you all a simple question, and I think the answer is going to shock you. All of us know by now the extent or the amount of the stimulus bill that is being discussed. It's $908 billion. If I asked you to guess what was the amount necessary for the funding of the government to continue that is being actively discussed, and that is probably going to be in what's called as an omnibus spending package next week, along with the $908 billion stimulus package, can you guess? Well, that amount is a whopping $1.4 trillion. Yes, that's right, $1.4 trillion. That is a lot of money. The amount of money set aside for the stimulus check is just $908 billion. Think about this. $1.4 trillion to continue the funding of the government, and just $900 billion for the country. And by the way, with no stimulus checks, because there are Republican senators who said, hey, it's going to cost $300 billion for stimulus checks. The total size of the bill that nobody's talking about, that no senator is going to talk about, no congressman is going to talk about, because, I'm sure that citizens would say, what is $1.4 trillion to fund the government? $900 billion for the stimulus. So the total size of the package that is going to be passed next week is $2.4 trillion. What they're doing this week is simply pass a 7-day extension so that they have time to figure stuff out next week. Think about this for a second. $300 billion, right around that much for stimulus checks. And they argue about that, they haggle over that. By the way, you'll see some lawmakers talking about the need to not do stimulus checks now and do it down the road. But again, what they won't tell you is that it's $1.4 trillion for government funding and $900 billion for stimulus checks. Unbelievable when you really think about it. Let's take a look at some lawmakers essentially blaming each other. You'll see a clip of somebody blaming House Speaker Pelosi, then somebody saying let's do stimulus checks down the road in a separate piece of legislation, then somebody complaining about, oh gosh, it's a few $100 billion for stimulus checks. Just unbelievable when you look at the big picture. Let's roll the tape and you can see for yourself.
There would be no bill helpful to Bernie Sanders. It wasn't really basically a government takeover our economy. So let's just be honest about that and put him to the side. And then look at under the dictionary of political hypocrisy would be Nancy Pelosi. She just admitted what we've known all along. She played politics with people's lives on COVID response.
Well, if they end up putting a deal together, as Chad just outlined, there might be in there an extension of the PPP small business loan program, money for vaccine distribution, money for schools, money for unemployment insurance as well. However, it appears as if at this point, another round of stimulus checks would not be agreed upon.
This is not a stimulus bill. It is a relief bill. And it's something for the next 3 to 4 months to help those in greatest need. There may be a stimulus check, but that would be part of a different piece of legislation.
$900 billion for the next 3 or 4 months. The program that you talked about, the $1,200 check, it cost, we believe, nationally $300 billion.
In the second segment, you'll see comments from White House senior economic advisor Larry Kudlow, who basically says, I guess we should do unemployment benefits because that would be, that should be something that we should do. He calls it an unemployment plus up. This is almost like, the hard-working taxpayer, the mom, the dad, the restaurant owner, individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality. It's almost like, we're getting breadcrumbs while, the government needs to get $1.4 trillion in funding. This will indeed happen next week. When you look at the numbers next week, you'll see that we're talking about a $900 billion stimulus package. And remember, when we all talk about will the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell put it on the floor of the Senate? Will House Speaker Nancy Pelosi support it? I believe the answer to that part is yes. Will President Trump sign it? These are all sort of smaller questions in the big picture, the grand scheme of things, which is that the government alone is going to need $1.4 trillion to stay funded for the next 12 months. Pretty incredible. Let's take a look at what the White House senior economic advisor Larry Kudlow said today to a journalist at the Washington Post. Let's roll the tape and you can see for yourself.
So instead, there have been talks about the unemployment insurance component, meaning if you end up losing your job, the federal government would help with a payment on top of what you might get from your state as well. Listen here to Larry Kudlow, the president's top economic advisor, talking to Robert Costa of the Washington Post earlier today.
We should have unemployment assistance because even 6.7% is too high. And we're getting reports that some of the states on the two coasts are beginning heavy restrictions on new businesses. I don't agree with that point of view, but whatever. We're worried about spiking COVID. So we'd like to get some federal plus up. I think the number is congregating around $300 a week, which would be acceptable to the administration.
Thinks it's congregating around $300 a week, Bill. Keep in mind, though, the CARES Act, when it was passed earlier this year, was $600 a week. So if it ends up making its way in, it would be roughly half that.
Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's very interesting what the White House senior economic advisor Larry Kudlow says. And sometimes the tone in which he says it is rather interesting. That's just my personal opinion. Speaking of interesting, here's an article on your screen that was published by Politico today that talks about Josh Hawley, who is the representative from Missouri, who's actually urging the president to veto, yes, to veto the $908 billion stimulus plan because it does not have stimulus checks. Now, keep in mind that Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are also against this plan because it doesn't include stimulus checks. But if the president actually vetoes this bill without stimulus checks, it could be months. Biden would have to be sworn in. Congress and the House and the Senate would have to get in line again. It could be months before we could see any more stimulus relief. Josh Hawley, who is the Missouri Republican, basically lobbied the president to veto any COVID stimulus bill that does not contain a second round of stimulus checks in a phone call on Saturday. And Hawley said that the president listened intently as he flew home on Air Force One from a rally in Georgia. In an interview that was conducted today, this is what the representative from Missouri said. He said, "I think it's vital that any relief include direct payments, and I'm not going to vote for it if it doesn't. And I also urged him to veto any bill that did not have direct payments in it." Wow. And Hawley also argued that it is, I quote, wild that a Senate Republican proposal and a bipartisan $908 billion plan does not offer $1,200 stimulus checks, just like we saw in the CARES Act package. And he said that President Trump seemed very receptive to what he was saying. So this is what Hawley said. "We had a good conversation about it and, a pretty thorough conversation. He asked a number of questions about the state of play of the different proposals. And I think it's fair to say that he was surprised at the direction that some of these were headed." Now, I do want to be clear that trying to add the stimulus checks could basically sabotage the entire $908 billion proposal. And that would be absolutely terrible at this stage of where we are at as a country, as an economy. Remember, the Ignition Time channel is about the country, about the economy, and about your money. For me, this channel is not about the red or the blue. It's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm American. Adding these stimulus check payments to the $908 billion negotiation that's going on right now is going to make things very tricky, because as it is, this is a hard sell because of the money for state and local governments, because of the liability shield measure that's already in there. So keep in mind that we're going to need the support of a number of Democrats, a number of Republicans for this to pass. But Hawley, who's a close ally of the president, says that all of the proposals have it backwards. Here's another quote from him. "Working families and individuals ought to be first for COVID relief, and then we'll talk about everything else." I see some of these comments about, well, we just don't have any money left over. We don't have money left over for people? That's what Josh is asking. We can give it to state governments, to businesses, but we don't have money for people? I just think that's crazy. And I got to tell you, in a sense, I agree with what Josh is saying, but I mean, I'm hoping that the whole thing doesn't get sabotaged because of this $1,200 stimulus check, because the entire bill that they're looking at next week is, like I said, $2.4 trillion. I'm going to repeat that again. It's going to be $2.4 trillion. Out of that, $1.4 trillion for government funding. Think about it. It's raining money, non-stop money, raining money. That's how much money is being set aside for government funding. And just $900 billion, which does not include stimulus checks. And that is the pressure that Josh Hawley is feeling from his constituents. And he expressed it to the president. So in a sense, his position is consistent with that of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You'll find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. I started this channel to talk about the country, to talk about the economy, and the impact of these things on your money, because whatever happens in the country impacts our economy, and we've understood that this year more than any other year in the history of our country. Probably for many of us, we've never ever been dependent on the government in our lives, and we're asking ourselves, why are we dependent now? Well, I think if we understand what's going on in the country, we can better understand how the economy works, and once you understand how the economy works, you can control your own personal financial future. You can control your own money. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time. That's 2 p.m. I want you to get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. You'll get added to SMS alerts list. Now, I'll send you important news, breaking alerts. If we ever release a program in the future, you'll be notified. You can always opt out of the SMSs at any point in time that you want. You can also get added to our email list if you want. Simply go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts and get added to our email list. Now, keep in mind, sometimes YouTube does not send out notifications on time. It happens. That's technology for you. So all you have to do is simply bookmark youtube.com/ignitiontime. That's youtube.com/ignitiontime, and then you'll be able to visit the homepage of our channel and check out our videos at any point in time that you want. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. Also, if you like, you can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is also ignition_time. You'll get breaking news and alerts from us on Twitter. Now, also remember that if you learn something new from this video, all I ask you, please click the like button. Please subscribe, please enable notifications. That would really mean a lot to me. That tells YouTube that you found the content helpful. That does help out the YouTube algorithm. Please share this video with friends and family. Also, please comment below, because when you comment, you get a chance to engage with our community. Our community is something I'm personally very proud of. We are bipartisan, we are intelligent, we are objective. Most importantly, we are all respectful of each other. And I think we all have a common goal, which is to help each other and understand what's going on so we can make better decisions about our own financial future. So that's where things stand, everybody. As always, you will find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. I really appreciate you watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.